Hello, my name is Anri, and today I will be sharing my life journey with you. And through that journey, I hope to share some helpful advice or tips that might assist you in your own journey. I know that some of you who might be watching this may already be working or studying, but sometimes, even while we are doing life, it might be useful to reflect on where to next. Or, as I would consider it, how do I elevate my life? I cannot guarantee that any of you would take my advice, nor that the advice that I would give today would be helpful advice, nor that you have to follow it. But still, I hope that this becomes a conversation starter so that through many other stories, we empower one another to be better than we were yesterday. And today I have been asked to touch on a few topics such as how do we know whether we are in the correct career path? How do we turn our passions into a career? How do I tap into resources that will enable me to do the things for myself? And then lastly, where do I get these resources? So I only have 15 minutes. So I have a PowerPoint presentation that I want to share with you so that we can stay on track. But I do want to share that I will be doing a Q&A as well. So anything that I don't touch on today, we will hopefully cover in the Q&A. And if there are any further questions, concerns, you are also more than welcome to contact me personally. But let's get into it. Okay, so I'm hoping that this screen share is working. Okay, so before I introduce myself, I was just thinking, how about starting this on a light note? And I found this very cute meme online. And to me, it was just the perfect description of doing something with your life, but whether it is something you want to do forever, that is the big question. And I want to read it to you. It says, and so the rabbit says, God, all I do is sit behind a computer all day. Surely my life has some greater purpose than this. And you can see that the bunny gets excited because now God is coming to speak to him. And God says, actually, no, this is it for you. Which is funny, because, we grow up thinking that when we step into a career or when we go into a study field, that is what defines our lives forever. And when in actual fact, times have evolved so much that we are able to find meaning in multiple directions. But that's just it, right? It's the action of finding meaning in what you do. And that's my next point. What gives us meaning? And this is also a little bit of homework I'm giving you to think about what gives you meaning, what gives you purpose, what fulfills your day, what is your why? Why do you wake up in the morning and the first thing you think of, am I happy? Am I excited to go to work? And that is just something I want you to ponder about. It can also be a long conversation for me, but I'll leave that as a little nugget. So getting to who I am today. So my name is Anri Magerman, and my 9-to-5 job is I spent as an administrative officer at the Center for Student Counseling and Development at Stellenbosch University. And then after hours, I am a leadership development facilitator and a social change active agent. But a big portion of my life was also spent in the Moravian Church. I was a youth leader at the Blue Dust Moravian Church, and I also decided to integrate a bigger role in my life by availing myself to be vice chairwoman of the MYUSA Cape Town North District Executive Committee. That was also a very exciting time in my life. It's one of those moments where you meet a bunch of different people and you connect in different ways, whether that's spiritually, whether that is making friends for life. And it's actually also something that I want to touch on today, because nothing in our life goes in vain. I always believe that whatever we do, whether it's downfalls or whether it's joys, everything has meaning and purpose in our lives. But let me get into it before I talk too much. So I have decided to split up my conversation with you today in 3 segments. And that's because before, and this is how I think about it for my own life, before I give anyone advice about, where do you go from here? What do you want to do with your life? I always bring it back to who you are, bring it back to the self. I think sometimes we underestimate the value of taking time to figure out who we are before we plow ourselves into something. And the first thing I want to share with you today is discovering yourself. I found this incredibly invaluable when I was the mere age of 16. I had this conviction that I wanted to work with young people. And I knew that my life's mission was to instill active agency in young people. And ever since I had that conviction for myself, and I knew that this is where I'm happy, this is where I get excited in the morning, I knew that I needed to do small things that was going to lead up to the big thing. And the small things was realizing who I am and how I was going to unlock myself to achieve my big life mission. And like I said, I started out my presentation talking about purpose. So for me, it was, how do I find my purpose? And like I said, my purpose was through realizing that I enjoy working with young people, whether that is from the age of 1 to the age of 25. I just found so much value in the minds of young people, and that is what fulfilled me. So when I think about discovering yourself, I think about drawing up a vision board and really digesting yourself bit by bit. It's saying, if I don't like working outside, why am I in a job that I am outside? It's about saying that if I don't like waking up early in the morning, why am I taking a job that requires me to be there at 7? It's really, and it's the small things. And of course, when you get a job, it's a give and take. You don't always get what you want, but it's really understanding your strengths. So what are your weaknesses? What makes you do what you do? What are the capabilities that allows you to do what you do? And through that, number one, you'll understand yourself better. Because in my own life, in work, I always thought that, I just want to be outside. I just want to be with people. I just want to constantly be moving. But I found real comfort in understanding that I actually like structure. I like it that if I sit down by my computer, I have emails that I can answer, a few things that I have to do. If I have to plan a conference, then I know my head was logistically organized. So what I thought I wanted for myself was not necessarily what I needed to really thrive in my own job. So understanding yourself better and being honest with yourself about who you are really does wonders for, when you choose a job or when you choose a career field. And that comes to the second point. You'll find out what you're good at. So a year ago, I planned a conference. And like I said, I was very structured, and I thought I was the person that was very spontaneous, but I realized that I function optimally in structured environments. And I realized that I'm really good at it. And that was just because the thing that I was fighting against was the thing that I was good at. So when I taught myself to be honest with myself, I allowed myself to be good at something. So yeah, so understanding yourself will also unlock what you are good at. And then number 3, assess your relationships. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to surround yourself with people that are either more ambitious than you, more curious than you, or you are on the same wavelength where you are just saying to yourselves, where can I go to next with my life? How can I improve my life? How can I do and be better in the world? Because as sad as it is, and I always say, sometimes it's quite a harsh reality for people to judge you based on who's around you. But it makes a huge difference in, you know, how you think, the conversations you'll have. I know that my friends love reading and I struggle to just finish a book. But the fact that I have friends that invest time in reading already changes a behavior within me. And that's why it's so important for you to assess for yourself, who do I have around me? So if I am saying, I don't know what to do next year, if I am saying, I'm really unhappy in my job, are they telling me to stick it through, or are we talking about solutions? And that is honestly what it just comes down to. It's about, if you go to your support system, do they allow you to stay in comfort, or do they push you beyond your comfort? Because that is when, even if you are deep within perhaps studying accounting and you realize that you don't enjoy it, are they going to just allow you to suffer, or will you be able to soundboard with them and they'll be able to discuss, brainstorm, critically analyze, you know, what it is that you don't enjoy? How can we, you know, relook at the situation so that you can enjoy what you do? So it's really just about, who is your circle? What is your support structure? What is your relationship like with your guardians, your parents, you know? Are you able to go to them and tell them, I'm unhappy? Or are you able to go to them, I had a really good day at work, or today I had a wonderful class? Those small things really make a big difference, in even just for your mental health. Because once you are able to be yourself with other people, once you are able to share your burdens, to share your joys, you become a better person and you are more authentic with others. And once you unleash that, you are discovering yourself. Yeah. So let's move on, which also brings me to the next point, which is unlock your potential. So small little journey about my life. I didn't see myself studying when I was in matric. I was convinced that I will be going overseas. I wanted to au pair. I was just not in the mental headspace to want to study, because I never saw myself as an A+ student. Quite frankly, I was really a C- student. Academics was something that wasn't difficult for me, but I didn't particularly enjoy it. Probably also because I could get very distracted easily in class, but I took it very seriously also. So when it came to, okay, so what do you want to do with your life? I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And the best next thing was, okay, if my parents are suggesting that I find something to do, if I'm going to take this break, then I'm going to find work experience. But something that really just was a great motivator for me was my life orientation teacher. And she found out that I'm planning on not studying. And she told me, please go study, even if it's language, even if it's something easy for you to do, just please go and study. And we had an intimate conversation, and I realized that no one else will do that for you. No one else will tell you, you know what, this is who you are, this is what you should do. They can give you the advice, they can tell you, but you have to do it. And quite frankly, I had to decide for myself to take the leap. And even if I didn't know what I wanted to do, I needed to unlock my own potential. And I needed to trust myself, and I needed to trust my abilities, that even if I believed that I was an average student, the hardworking strength I had is what got me to where I am today. And ever since, I've always just kept reminding myself that no one's going to do that for you besides yourself. You're going to have to start believing in yourself so that you can get to where you need to be. And honestly, unlocking your potential, because we get caught up in our limitations and our what ifs, and I can't do this and I can't get that, and others have it more easier than I do, which is 100% true. But we are also the key to our success. And I say success isn't when you have the dream job, when you are in the perfect study field. Success is when you believe in yourself and you trust your abilities to reach your success, to reach that dream job, to reach, the milestones that you set for your life. I just want to this. So the last thing that I want to mention on this, I always think about graduates that I used to work with when I was a program coordinator for a course. And one of the questions that we used to ask them is, what do you have to do to achieve your goals? And a lot of them couldn't necessarily think beyond financial limitations or think beyond, how hard something is going to be. And that's because we don't know how to switch off the negative voice in our head. And when we think about unlocking our potential, we think about shifting our mental attitude to, why can't I achieve this? And the minute we shift that thinking to, I can do this, that is when you allow yourself to actualize. And I think it's just profound when you are able to really reflect on yourself. You've done the discovering, you've done, this is what I want to do, this is what I know for my life. And then you allow yourself to really just flourish in that. I think there's just power in realizing that, yes, there are limitations in this world, and yes, there are what ifs, and yes, something might not work out. But the beauty really lies in, what if it does work out? And that was also it for me in my life. I started university. I studied at Stellenbosch. I did my BA degree. And I didn't necessarily enjoy my BA, but I needed to realize that I needed to stop looking at the negative of what I'm not enjoying and look at the little joys I got through the experience. Because I was fully committed to my studies, but after hours, I was involved in leadership. I met so many wonderful people. I connected through social media with people that maybe I've just said hello to, which brings me to the next point. But I was so focused on what was happening with me that I wasn't enjoying, that I completely missed the process of my own life, the process of who I've met, the winnings that I had in my life. And that is my limitation. And that could be your limitation as well. But unlocking your thinking from the negativity and really embracing the positive around you will really enable you to learn, connect, and grow. So for myself, I needed to learn that your life is not just your negative circumstances. Your life is not only your what ifs, your negatives, your limitations, all the things that we think of when we think, I want to do this. I needed to learn that if I want to be a radiologist, I needed to learn about, what does this job entail besides the day-to-day? What is my life going to be like besides the day-to-day? What can I contribute to this field? I needed to learn that if I'm going to do this and it's going to be hard, how can I connect with other people that can teach me more, that I can learn from? Because once we enable ourselves to connect with people and to be like, you know what, I actually didn't know what was happening today. Can we talk about this? Can you tell me what you've learned? That connection between two people is invaluable for your growth, which comes to the last part, growing. And through networks, through exposure, through discovering yourself, that's when you grow. Because like I said, I had this thought in my head of who I was and who, maybe the world expected me to be or who I wanted to be. And when I unlearned that behavior of putting myself in a position where I was disadvantaging myself, I really grew. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I took on more opportunities. I allowed myself to learn along the way and to connect with people about things that interest me. And I was curious about the things that interested me. And in that process, I've grown so much in the last 6 years of my life. So I've given a lot of theoretical reflection questions. Nothing too in depth, but which I also really want to leave for the Q&A. But the last few things that I've shared with you is not necessarily career or study advice. To me, it's really just, I can tell you, I applied for a bank loan to get me through my first year of varsity. I can tell you that I eventually got a NSFAS bursary in my second year. I can tell you that I've applied for bursaries through the university. I can tell you that I almost went au pairing. I can tell you that I was handing out flyers on the R44 to earn a little income, to have a little side job. I can tell you that I worked at the Cape Town Stadium for one of the soccer matches. I can tell you about all the little things that has made my life interesting, that has made my life adventurous. I can tell you the disappointments as well. But I could only have those experiences once I knew myself. Once I knew that, okay, if I want to do this, then I need to be able to do this. And I couldn't make any of those decisions without realizing who I am. And making a vision board, most importantly. You can be 60 years old, you can be 10 years old. You are never too old or too young to ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? Where do I want to be? And how do I want to elevate my life? But I do have a few practical tips. And this is now, a bunch of the things that I've been saying, but I've kind of summarized them up into 4 bullet points. And simply 4 bullet points because sometimes it's really overwhelming just wanting to start. And sometimes the start is harder than the journey. So when I give these 4 very simple practical tips, it's because sometimes we just need to start. We figure it out along the way. We make mistakes along the way. But that's why we make mistakes, so that we can learn. So my 4 bits of advice is number 1, put together a vision board and set SMART goals. I enjoy living my life according to a 5-year plan. And I have one mission for my life, which, like I said, is to work with young people. But the small things that contribute to whatever that working with young people is one day is what makes my vision board brighter every year. If I put together a vision board, I literally write down, I want to work in an office. I want to be amongst people. I want to at least do a project that involves social justice. I want to be part of conversations where we talk about gender equality. Your vision board really puts together where you see yourself going and what you want in your life. And when we set SMART goals, we set goals that are attainable, goals that are realistic, goals that are time bound. So if I say in the next 2 years, I want to at least have traveled to another university to go and meet students there, then I know that that is my time bound SMART goal for myself. Then number 2, fill up your CV not only with practical experience, but with community involvement too. I think yes, it's important that you gain experience through doing internship work, or working in the lab, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes it's really good to also connect with people that don't have the opportunity to explore life, who don't have the opportunity to think about, oh, what am I going to eat today, and have all the options in their fridge. I think there is so much value in being deeply connected with our community, and you won't get that just doing things specifically in your field. Getting to know yourself is also getting to know the people around you, because sometimes we live in a community but we don't understand our people. So just doing a soup kitchen, or looking at a school and being like, I'm going to rally 5 of my friends and we are going to go and paint maybe their school hall, or we are going to paint a library for them. It's really just, what is your giving back? Because your CV is not just the skills that you will use in your job. It's about your interpersonal skills that you will also use in your job. And when we authentically share ourselves with people, we learn those interpersonal skills as well. Number 3, utilize your social media as if you were a product. We should never underestimate that the 21st century allows any employer to Google us. So if you are not making sure that your social media is up to scratch and that it shows a future employer who you are, then you should really do some cleanup, number 1. And number 2, that you engage with your social media in such a way that it also gives you things that makes you think about and reflect about your life. So when I say that, for instance, LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn profile simply because it's a great way to find jobs. And number 2, there's great career advice. And number 3, you get to connect with people on a professional level. So sometimes what we feed our social media is what is given back to us. So if I'm just going to be looking at things that if I'm going to be looking at, say, for example, fake news all day, and I have no credible sources on my social media or the websites I peruse, then that is what you start to believe. So it's the same as the company you keep. If the conversations you are going to have is like-minded, nothing beyond like-mindedness, then that is how you're going to go through life. And that's why it's so important that we broaden our horizons, that we fill our minds with new things every day. Because what was the simple, ordinary jobs way back then is not the jobs that we have today. There are an infinite number of jobs and an infinite number of opportunities. It's really just what do you feed yourself with every day. Then number 4, think about your time as an investment in your future. I always say, before I do anything and before I commit to anything, I ask myself, what am I getting out of this? Or how can I invest my time in this that will be productive for my future, but also that can teach me something? So when I invest myself into a project, it's really because I deeply care about it. I'm really passionate about this. Or it's because, I don't know this and I'm curious and I'm going to involve myself because I want to know more. So really think about your time as an investment. It's like an exchange for money. It's like someone is paying for you to be present, to be there. Yeah, so those are my 4 little practical nuggets. I also have a very good friend of mine and an amazing life coach, Felicia Davids. She also assisted me in, discovering myself through doing a strengths finder. It's this program where you do a Gallup strengths finder. So essentially it tells you what are your strengths, how do you connect with people, and so much more. I will leave her details as well. That really helped me as an additional practical tip. There are so many resources out there that can also enable you to discover yourself. So sometimes, we give all this advice and you're like, okay, but then where do I? Number one, it's starting with the full practical tips. But number two, it's also taking the time to find out. Take the time to find out. I can't stress that enough. Sometimes life is not going to give you everything on a silver platter. But honestly, taking the time to be like, what is a firefighter's day-to-day activities or responsibilities? It's about taking the time to really figure out what is this before you jump into something. If you are curious about how do I start up my own business, we have the fabulous thing called the internet. So if you want to maybe try and figure out, what are your strengths? Like I said, there's the Strengths Finder, and I will leave her details as well. But there are also wonderful free online quizzes that you can go through that can also just be a guiding line for you in terms of what you can do. I know I've also done a few of them. Very interesting. I wouldn't say that it is 100% correct, but it was wonderful to see that I could resonate with some of the things that I already knew about myself. So it was more confirmation than a discovery. And then I want to end off my conversation with you today with Mark Twain's quote, where it says, "I've never let my schooling interfere with my education." And to me, that is just, it actually sums up everything that I said today. And that is the best advice I can give you, is that nothing in life is always just concrete, formal, hardcore information. Learning comes through the experiences, it comes through the mistakes, it comes with the people you connect with, the people that you spend your time with. Your education does not only come from going to study, or it does not only come from when you learn on the job. It is that very moment when you took the time to be like, this is what I'm going to do, and then meeting someone along the way. It's the moment that you are like, you had a conversation with yourself about what you want to do. So life is not just the things that are hardcore evidence in front of us. It's all the little moments that build up to those moments. And sometimes we can go through life thinking that we need to have a formal kind of learning that will provide us with the knowledge we need to make it through this life. But like I said, even with community impact, it's just spending time with people and just hearing their stories, and how do they survive, how do they make their lives more meaningful, what makes them want to get up in the morning. That is a different kind of schooling you'll get than you would have ever gotten in your job or while studying. And to many people, they interpret this quote in different ways. But to me, it's really just the beauty of the process. It's the beauty of, if I fail my subject today and I pass it tomorrow, what did I learn about myself in that process? What is that knowledge that I've gained in that span of time? And inspiration doesn't only come from seeing why this theory works in practicality. Inspiration comes from being like, how do I break down this and then make it work? Inspiration comes from seeing successful people or people that you admire getting something right and being like, what are your habits that make you successful? It's finding inspiration in the small things that people do and that people do differently. Sometimes we think that if someone is doing something differently, oh, that is a bit risky, but that is actually one of the things I enjoy. I thoroughly enjoy seeing people do things differently, because there's so much sameness that sometimes it's good to celebrate some difference. So we really just need to remind ourselves that Rome also wasn't built in one day, and that our life journey takes a lot of right turns and wrong turns. But that is how we find our purpose. We find our purpose through being honest with ourselves, reflecting, and being critical about the things that we just digest. And then also taking the leap of faith in ourselves. For myself, taking the leap of faith was always believing that even though it might be really hard right now, it's because the perseverance and the strength that I have cultivated all these years through discovering myself is what got me through. And then being honest with myself when I don't enjoy something, and then nipping it in the bud right there instead of torturing myself through it. It's really just being able to allow myself to be honest with myself that gets me through my days. So yeah, that is my 10 slides for you today. Like I said, I will be doing a live as well where people can ask me questions, and then the resources I will put together in a PDF with some contact information. But fortunately, we do live in an era where everything is available to us by a click of a button, but I do also realize the value of, direct information and just going out there and diving into too much information. But this is my information. If you directly want to ask me a question, for the Q&A, if you want to ask me a specific question that I can already read through and respond then, you're more than welcome to. I know that today wasn't specifically career and study advice. It's simply because I never started my life with, the perfect advice. I never started my career with the perfect advice. I really just went with my gut. I went with what I knew I enjoyed, and I made that a reality for myself. And I wouldn't say that, even the job that I have right now is 100% my passion, but I can definitely say is that the environment allows me to fulfill my passion. And sometimes it won't be through sending emails, but it's the fact that I get to speak to students, I get to learn new things, and all the small things, the small nuggets, they all build up to the bigger picture. But I also want to say is that we never do stop learning. And whether you decide to change your whole career by the time you are 60, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. If you decide after 6-7 years of studying medicine, you don't want to be a doctor, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. As long as you live a fulfilled, purposeful life, as long as what you do makes you happy, and also very importantly, makes a difference in the world, then that's all that matters. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you learned something. If you want to share some feedback with me, you're more than welcome to. If you want to engage with us in the comment section, please do. And I look forward to doing the Q&A with you. Thanks.